Good. Good for that. Thank you, Councillor Wills. Thanks, Councillor Chris. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. So we've got 3.1, fixing the common seal. Can't move for that. Councillor Riley, thank you. Councillor Chris, thank you for that. Motion to the floor. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. It's carried 3.2. And review of management policy. Does anyone want to speak to that?
We may need to go to the other item first because Sandy just want to wait.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. We can do that. We can go to. Is it at the table, right? Yeah.
We also just need to.
Sorry.
We just needed to also get council's approval to receive the supplementary report.
Yes, we're going to do that. Yeah. Do you want to go to that one now? 3.4, which will be the supplementary. Yep, cool. So we just moved, obviously moved up. Councillor receives that report. Councillor, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Yes. Oh, so we're going to page, we're going to go to 3.4. It's the supplementary agenda, page 3. Go back to 3.2 and 3.3. So we'll pass that to you. Thanks.
So we're just looping back round to council on the matter of the long-term plan budget, just as we continue to progress this work. As a result of the valuation of the revaluation being completed in January, February versus November, December, we come back and have a discussion with council around what was the impact of that work that we currently use for rating purposes. Also, we previously tabled fees and charges that need to have an opportunity to discuss those. Those are the fees and charges proposed for the following financial year, and we're also proposing an amendment to the revenue and financing policy, which was recently tabled. So,
just touching base again on the differentials, we had a workshop earlier this month and we spoke about the main differences there. So the report obviously has just indicated that the income, just to remind everyone that the budget group originally had the 10.5 versus 4.9, and this report just shows how the proportions we proposed the amendments to the proportion that we're suggesting and what the differences will look like. So just to highlight again and remind everyone, some general rates differentials for the land values. We had the general rates make up of approximately 33%, and the differentials we had at 4 for commercial, residential 1, primary 0.5, and multi-unit being 2. The current differential suggests that this reallocation be changed slightly, and the differential of 0.8 that we're proposing is 4.35 for the commercial and industrial accommodation from the 4, and the residential going to 1.93 from 2, and the other change is the primary to 0.67 from 0.5. And this essentially keeps the proportions the same. Therefore, the difference that you see coming through there, there's a little highlight on there on 0.9, and it just shows you the impact on each of those in graphical form. The details of some of the samples are attached in this document, and we just wanted to highlight a few of those just to put it into perspective in terms of what all those dollar values look like in terms of each of the areas. So just coming to some of those sample properties, if we look at Timaru, for instance, majority of them are similar. You can see on the attachment numbers based on these differential proportions. Actually, when you look at it as a daily cost, it's actually 0.85 cents that we're talking about. So that's an example from single room residential. If we look at some of the higher movements that we have discussed, for instance, commercial, you'll see that there is a bit of a change there, 26% increase at a land value of 534. That actually works out to be about a $4.94 difference. So there are some skews in some of the higher end areas, and then just highlighting a very high level dollar land value. For example, 1.9 million property in primary, what will that look like? You can see that some of them actually decrease rather than increase because there are those different anomalies there. But all of these anomalies, we just wanted to highlight because some of them are very high and low, but it's a very small number of properties. But that particular 1.9 million property, the difference is actually 0.75 per day we're talking. So again, when you put it into the context, some of them are high and lower, and the dollar values compared to the percentage might not be so high when you put it in the context of the land value. So those are just a couple of the variances. Happy to take any questions
Thanks, Sarah.
in that section, sorry. So that's just the differentials.
Differentials, questions, covered there. Happy to move on to the fees and charges, yeah.
So as part of activity managers establishing their draft budgets for their long-term plan, as part of their process, they review their fees and charges. We review fees and charges annually. We've included a document which outlines current fees and charges versus what is proposed for next year. And we've pointed out in the cover paper as well, we've got some of the bigger movements, and we can either do a page turn on the fees and charges or accept any questions, specific ones from your prior reading.
Thank you. Any questions? I just note that overdue fines, we've removed the children's fines in 2021 and adults fines coming up. That's not obviously a big revenue earner. Not going to cost the council too much. Reasoning behind that?
I want to start, I understand it's an accessibility of area issues.
Yeah, so it's one to keep consistent with the children's fines. A lot of the libraries in the room towards the structure. It actually has a positive impact in seeing returns coming back into the library. So it doesn't actually create an issue with regard to lost books. It also enables people to access books and borrowings without fear of actually being penalised. That said, our overdue fines are minimal. We do collect very low levels of numbers from it. And if anything, it's probably a burden to us in terms of chasing.
Cool. Thank you. Councillor Burke.
Just the social housing rentals. We're busy doing most of our rentals up at the moment. We're up to a standard which is required by legislation. We've only probably increased $5.50 per week and $8.50 per week for a 1 year. Was that based around what the market said, or was it basically just a cost recovery project?
I think what it is moving towards cost recovery. The activity is meant to meet its own costs. Some years it does it, some years it doesn't. There's some ups and downs sometimes with the portfolio. This is not necessarily a full recovery model still. We're still moving towards that. We have some funds and reserves to enable us to smooth that a little bit, but we've got increasing costs around the cost of the loans coming on for the Healthy Homes upgrades. We've got increased insurance costs. We're wanting to make sure that our models actually truly capture our internal costs of providing social housing rather than maybe just the overhead allocation that's been used historically. We've looked at our social housing portfolio. We are at or below last quartile in terms of market rent. So We're doing some work on valuations and things at the moment, but typically we're sitting in that 60 to 70% of market rent in terms of our charges. So I think there's opportunity, there's need there to do some adjustment while still keeping it low affordable rental housing. But this is carrying on with the increases that we put in place in the previous year, and we think we need to be a year or two off this in order for us to be fully cost recovery.
So there have been some incremental increases along.
Yeah, this last year was the first year that we did this level of increase. Previous years were lower, and we've maintained this increase for this year just to make sure we're capturing our costs.
Thank you.
Councillor Whittington.
Thanks, Donna. Hey, just like there's a few things where costs haven't changed. I would have thought most cost license fees, for example, go up by the CPI at least, because our wages of our staff are going up. So I can't believe anything actually sits still, because this is where we get into trouble later on, and we go, sorry, we worked out that cost, and suddenly it's $100 a year instead of $10 a year incrementally. If you take the bylaw licenses, the cost of staff processing, I guess, time has gone up there, so that should be reflected in the license cost. And there's lots of examples throughout that. So I'm just interested in our theory behind that.
So it's
Page 46.
So in here, I might pull up one of the other GMs to talk to some of the specifics, but I think what we could do is loop back in terms of anything that hasn't had at least a CPI adjustment, question that. I know there have been some movements in building and planning to cover those costs. Which is the one in particular?
All the ones on page 46, none of the license fees have gone up. There are other examples through here where there's no increase. I'm not saying they should go up massively, but I would have thought there would be some small movement.
Yeah, so unless Eric wants to comment on those, we would need to loop back with the managers in terms of those specific ones.
Yeah, maybe if you could just have a chat to them. I don't need a specific.
Yeah,
I guess just through a lot of times we try to balance, just the social impact, the affordability against the increases. It's not necessarily helpful if we just look for the line CPI adjustment. We do recognize the additional cost of some, it can be quite detrimental. But at the same time, we need to make sure that a user pays approach is appropriate in certain areas. Hence, you've seen some increasing 4 to 5% in resource management and building expense.
Okay, thank you. Just
I think we still also do the exercise when we looked at our revenue and financing and what we thought the split should be across user fees and rates and align everything with that as well. So
that's okay.
Thank you. Councillor, did you say?
Yeah, look, I was just probably going to probably agree with Councillor Clinton, actually, because it probably represents 30 million income, between 20 and 30 million income anyway, to have that incrementally just have it quietly creeping along with the inflation number is actually quite a pretty good idea, because it drops the requirement for the rate increase just back incrementally as well, which if you keep on doing that, it's not a big shock like perhaps we're going to have. That's all. Thank you.
Bring back the library funds you. No, that's a very valid point. Well made. Any other questions, team? Do you require anything else from us? Councillor O'Donnell?
we just need to discuss the amendment to the draft revenue and financing policy.
Just to go to the section on revenue and financing policy, point number 12. Currently, the draft that we did discuss previously had 5.3 reading that the uniform annual rate charges had the overall percentage increase to the general rate in any given year staying the same proportion. So effectively, at this stage, we had a table right at the end of that policy, which showed the split between the general rate and the UAGCs. What we're proposing is a slight wording change to just that point there. And this is to just give us a small degree of flexibility to the policy so that going forward there is a bit more equity and a greater equity in the rate pay base overall, which will accommodate for any changes. So for example, at the moment, all we're proposing here is the policy change to be that the increase as a general rate increase, the margin be 5% in any given year in that table. At the moment, it is a bit restrictive when you go through the tables in some areas where it says UAGC is X% versus general rates is X%. And when we do all the modelling in at the end of it, sometimes it could slightly be off, not the exact breakdowns in each of those group areas. However, if we amend the policy to allow for a 5% within those proportions, that will keep it all in line. And it gives us a bit more flexibility going forward. Happy to take any questions on that point.
Thanks, Zora. Any questions? Everybody questions? Yeah, pretty comfortable. Okay, cool. So we're going to recommendations on page 3, 1 and 2, A, B, and C. I'll move for that. Councillor Parker, thank you. Councillor Booth, the motion to the floor. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. It's carried. Thank you. So we'll move back now to 3.2, which is on the agenda. Review of Treasury Management Policy. We've got Sandy as well. Excuse me.
So through the mayor, this is just looking at the treasury management policies. So what we've done here is we've actually combined, in the past, we had 2 policies. We had a liability management policy and investment policy. So we've combined the 2 together in order to sort of make them a little bit more cohesive. And they are worked together as one. So it makes more sense to actually have both in the same policy. The major change to this policy, we use Bancorp Treasury Advisory to review both policies, and the major change to this policy is we've just opened up the banding on our credit limit in the liability area. So that means that we're now going up to, we set it at 150%, we're now going to 280, which is the LGFA covenant. So what we've done is we have to report on the LGFA covenants anyway every year. It's easier for us just to have one set of reporting tools. So we've opened that up. But as you know, through the revenue and financing policy and through our financial strategy that we're only looking at going to keep self-imposing a 210% ratio, but it does give us that number to do that. Other than that, I'm happy to read it.
Thank you. Any questions? I think we're all pretty comfortable with that. Yeah, cool. Happy to move that. Councillor Gilchrist, thank you. Thank you. Sandy, put the motion to the floor. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Yes. 1 year's policy. Successful day. Moving now to page 28, and it's the Jordan Community Board rate change. Mark's here, and also given welcome from the car park. And we'll let you speak to that in just a minute as well. Thanks, Mark.
This one's pretty straightforward, I think. Take this reset as it is for you to approve that recommendation from the board. The status will incorporate it into the plan, subject to approval.
Thank you. And it's been driven by the community board. Jordan, Given, did you want to speak to that briefly at all?
Yeah, look, it's just really, oh, am I on? Yeah, sorry guys, it's just really to, it's something we've talked about for some time as a community board. It sort of brings us into line with Present Point, whose rate is $5. So basically, yeah, just bringing it into line with the way the world is really. So
That follows the high Texas. So you're admitting that Geraldine is following Present Point, is that correct?
I've got,
It's very well hit these ones. Given, would you have moved that?
yeah, I'm happy to move that.
Cool, thank you. And Councillor Lyon, put that motion to the floor. Those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Yes. Thanks, everyone. And I think that is the whole agenda. Yes, of course. Yeah. Was there minutes? Oh. Thank you, everyone.